Hi team, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
audible, Shiva.
yes. Finally, we are into the session, and yes, pharmacovigilance. The first introductory session will go today. Okay. Hope everybody is clear with my voice. Okay. Is it screen visible?
Visible.
Yes. So till to date, we were hearing so many times a word called vigilance, pharmacovigilance. So let's see what this pharmacovigilance really is. Before that, I just wanted to explain something for you. Like I have some questions for you too. Like yeah, can a pharma student can do the IT job? I mean software kind of job only with a laptop? Can a pharmacy graduate or M.Pharm postgraduate or a pharmacy candidate can do a job called IT job?
Yes, you can do.
Yes, because the knowledge what we'll get from our academics, that is fine. And again, we have to get some extra knowledge, which is very essential and required to get into other field from regular routine fields like QA, QC, R&D, formulation scientists. Other than all this regular routine jobs, we have some other jobs too. Those are called software kind of jobs where we'll be working on complete database and where we'll be dealing with the laptop. That's it. It is not like a regular lab work. So those are we have different jobs. Those are SAS, clinical research, and pharmacovigilance, clinical data management, clinical kind of domain. So we were not deviating from our pharma domain. We were into our pharma domain, and we will be handling the knowledge of our pharma. Other than that, we were adding some additional skills by taking such a coachings and other knowledge from other sources. So which is very essential and required to get into this field. Okay. Now we'll directly go into a job domain called pharmacovigilance. So, pharmacovigilance. Can you please tell me like what is your understanding of PV? Can I get some words from you guys? Like each one can tell me like what is your understanding about PV? What we can do with the pharmacovigilance?
To
Yeah.
monitor the side effects of drug and herbal products,
Yeah,
collecting
good.
and detecting also.
Yes. Other than this, anybody?
Collecting the information from the patient about the particular drug adverse reactions, and you can submit to regulatory affairs so that they
Yeah.
will pass the drug, whether to stop or they will evaluate the drug
Very well
information.
said. Yes. So such a important domain is called pharmacovigilance because after release of the drug into the market from our industry, from getting patents from FDA. So if the drug after release of the drug into the market, if you are really getting very bad adverse drug reactions, those are called in a regular routine terminology that will be called side effects. So if we are getting really side effects, if we are getting 100% cure of the treatment, but we are getting some new symptoms or new side effects with that, so definitely it will be not safer. So along with the efficacy, there is must and should proactive measures should be taken to monitor the safety of the drug. Safety, that is nothing but we have to we have to actively monitor whether the drug is really causing side effects or not. If the drug is really showing 100% efficacy but it is showing very bad side effects, so called adverse drug reactions, like if the intention of the drug is to treat fever but the adverse drug reaction you got with the drug is death, is it making sense? Is it a judgeable? Because what the intention for which we are taking drug for fever, which is very minute, but after you're taking a drug called X drug, but after taking the drug instead of treatment, it is caused a very serious side effect that is called death. So it doesn't make sense. So if you are really taking drugs and really getting very severe side effects, if you are really treating a drug, if you are really taking a drug for very serious disease, for example cancer, oncology products, if you are taking an oncology product for treatment of cancer, but if you are getting some alopecia, that we all know, that is very fine. So oncology product side effects is alopecia, hair fall. So Cancer is a death causing disease where the end stage will be very severe. So for that kind of disease you are using a drug. If you are using the drug and after using the drug the cancer is getting cured, but with the drug you are developing a symptom or adverse reaction, so called alopecia, that is fine, that is making sense. So if the symptoms or areas are less severe or very negligible, then we can consider. So for this reason there should be active measures to be taken for the safety monitoring of a product. So the pharmacovigilance is very actively involved in this process, safety monitoring of drugs. We'll see what exactly the definition like we got two definitions, two understandings of the people what exactly the pharmacovigilance is. Yes, it is a collection and monitoring of areas, very well said. And after collection and monitoring of areas, we'll be submitting these areas to the regulatory authority. So that regulatory authority will give the final decision whether it should be a warning or it should ban the drug, or it will ask the company, sponsor company, to conduct the clinical trial once again. This is all the steps involved in the pharmacovigilance process. Now we'll go into the session. So that is a brief knowledge I just wanted to give. So coming to the definition of pharmacovigilance, pharmacovigilance is a science of collection, monitoring, and researching, assessing, and evaluating. So initially, the pharmacovigilance is a science. So along with many more sciences, have so many branches like pharmacoepidemiology, pharmacology, all kind of departments. Pharmacovigilance is one of the department or one of the science which is actively involved in the drug process itself. It is not at all deviation from our regular pharma subject or pharma domain. It is a part of pharmacy. Okay, so this is collection. So initially we'll collect. What will collect? We'll collect the information from healthcare providers and patients. People, do you know who is healthcare providers? Who are healthcare providers? HCPs. Who we call healthcare providers?
Hospitals,
Healthcare providers. Like
healthcare providers, nurse, pharmacist, doctor,
very
pharmacist to doctors.
Very good. So healthcare providers includes pharmacist, nurse, physician, and all the roles which are in health science. Okay, so the information from healthcare providers and patients on the adverse effects of medications, biological products, herbals, and traditional medicines. Because 2 days we were having so many therapies, chemotherapy, that is allopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, and all that. In all fields, our pharmacovigilance is existing. Okay, so initially, what we'll do, we'll collect the information from where? From healthcare providers, whether it may be physician, whether it may be nurse, whether it may be pharmacist. So we may collect the information from the HCP or patients on adverse effects. So after taking the drug, the patients will experience some adverse drug reactions. No, adverse drug reactions are those which are not intentionally getting with the drug, which are unintentional. In further slides, I'll explain what is adverse effect. Okay, so we'll initially collect the information on adverse effects of medications. It is not only limited to biological products. It is also having. It is not only limited to allopathy. It is having its existence. The PV is having its existence in herbals, traditional medicines, and biological products too. So initially we'll collect the information which is provided by the HCP and patients. The information is nothing about adverse effects which are caused by the medications. The medication may be a biological, a herbal, a traditional medicine. After collecting the information from these people, we'll monitor like when the ADR is caused, like immediately after taking the drug or after some time, or is it some other factors is responsible for the ADR, or any other hereditary conditions, or any other drug interactions, or any other drug food interactions. We'll monitor all the process and we'll check the background of the patient, like what is the past history. All these kinds will be monitored after collection of information. So after monitoring, we'll research. So what is the reason main behind the adverse drug reaction? Is really drug is causing this area or some other factor? So that will do research. After monitoring and researching, we'll come to an assessment. Yes, this drug is caused this ADR, or will come to an assessment. This drug is not the reason for this ADR. So after assessment, we will evaluate. So whether really this drug is causing, and will finalize, like we'll pass a statement and we'll give causality. Causality is nothing but relatedness between drug and ADR. So we'll evaluate whether this drug is causing ADR or not. So this is a standard definition which you should give in interview, because based on convenience, if you Google or some other extra things, you can find numerous definitions. This is a standard definition. If somebody in interview really asking you the definition of pharmacovigilance, you have to give this definition. So pharmacovigilance is a science of, the sequence also should be the same. So pharmacovigilance is a science of collection, monitoring and researching, assessing and evaluating. Evaluating of what? Evaluating of the information provided by the healthcare providers. Healthcare provider may be a physician, pharmacist, nurse, or any other healthcare person, and patients. Sometimes patients on their interest they will report areas. Okay, so the information whichever will getting from this healthcare providers and patients on the adverse effects of different medications. So this is the standard definition of pharmacovigilance. Is it clear for everybody? Because it is very important. It is the first question of an interview. Okay, is it clear?
Okay.
Yes. Next, I'm telling adverse effects, side effects. So once you're coming into PV, you just call them as adverse drug reaction or adverse event. We don't have to call here side effects. There is a minute difference between side effect and adverse drug reaction. So this is a standard term, so-called adverse drug reaction. So if you see the generalized definition of adverse drug reaction, so any unfavorable and unintended sign, symptom, or disease temporarily associated with the use of medicinal product. So initially I said no. For one purpose, we'll take the drug. For example, I got fever. I'll take Covaxin as a better example, because these days people are more taking this vaccines. No? So Covaxin, what is the purpose of Covaxin? Covaxin purpose is to boost the immunity and to produce antibodies against virus. So that is the purpose of that vaccine. But other than that purpose, it is producing some unintended signs. Those are fever. So initially, when a physician or healthcare provider giving you COVID vaccine, they're clearly telling, if you're taking this vaccine, definitely within 24 hours, you may get fever, or you may get some body aches, or you may get some dizziness like that. Further, they're also prescribing some other drug, Dolo 650. So there is a process. So there is, the purpose is to get immunity, but other than that we are getting some adverse drug reactions. Okay, so these adverse drug reactions are unfavorable because fever is not favorable to our body, rise in temperature. This are unfavorable and unintended sign, symptom. It may be symptoms or temporarily associated disease. Sometimes the adverse drug reaction may develop into disease. First day it may be a fever, but it may later on go to flu like that. So it may be an unintended sign or unfavorable condition or symptom or a disease which is temporarily associated with the use of medicinal product. So this is the adverse drug reaction definition. So any unfavorable, unintended sign, symptom, or a disease which is temporarily associated with the use of medicinal product, that is called adverse drug reaction. So it is not the purpose we were taking the drug, but we are getting other reaction than indication. So do you people know what is indication? What is indication? Anybody? Any idea? Disease, indication. Have you heard this term? Am I audible? Hello?
Indication about medication. What's that? I didn't understand.
What is the term medication called in healthcare? Indication. I think you might got in pharmacology. So indication is nothing but the disease for which you are treating. Okay, disease is a general term. Indication is that, for example, what is the indication of fever? For paracetamol, fever is the indication. So we are taking the paracetamol to treat a disease. That is called indication. Here, fever will be the indication of paracetamol. Okay. Now you got what is the indication, right? So indication is a disease for which you are taking drug. So that is the indication. So actually for indications or for diseases, we'll take the drugs. But other than the indication curing, we'll get some adverse drug reactions. Those we'll get some other reactions which are unintentional, which are unfavorable symptoms or signs. That may be a temporarily associated disease also. So that reactions we are calling adverse drug reactions. Okay, so we'll see the terminology of pharmacovigilance. So the pharmacovigilance, like what is pharmacon? I think you everybody know about pharmacon. What is the pharmacon meaning? Pharmacon.
About
What
the
is it?
drug information.
Drugs.
Pharmacon is nothing but drug. Here also I'm displaying no a short
Drug.
version. Yes, you should be active. Okay. Pharmacovigilance terminology. Like every pharma terminology are coming from an ancient terminology. Like pharmacovigilance is also derived from an ancient word, which is a combination of two words, pharmacon and vigilator. Okay. Pharmacon is nothing but drug. This is we know everybody people will know from pharma background. So pharmacon is nothing but drug. Vigilator is nothing but to keep awake, alert, or to keep watch. So we're just keeping an eye or we are just watching the drug, like how it is working after taking the drug, what are the side effects we're getting, what are the adverse drug reactions we're getting, so is it going well for the patients. So this is all the process will be involved in pharmacovigilance. We are just keeping an eye on drugs, so we're just watching the drug, that is to keep awake or to be alert or to keep watch. So that is the meaning of vigilar, and pharmacon is a drug. In both combining of words, this is the meaning will be keep on watching or keep on awaking or alerting the drug process. So what happens after the drug release into the market. So this pharmacovigilance is not a new subject. This is pharmaco branch of pharmacoepidemiology. Epidemiology is nothing but the study of use and effects of drugs in huge population, pharmacoepidemiology. Okay, so this pharmacovigilance is not a recent science, it is there from initial days. It is a branch of pharmacoepidemiology. The branch of pharmacoepidemiology, the pharmacoepidemiology is nothing but the study of use and effects of drugs in huge population. It uses the methods of epidemiology and is concerned with all aspects of benefit or risk ratio for populations. So this pharmacovigilance is using all the methods of epidemiology, and here it all deals with the benefits and risk ratio. Benefit is nothing but efficacy, treatment, curing. So what is the benefit you are getting with the drug? So the intention of paracetamol to treat the to treat fever. Okay, that is a benefit. But after taking paracetamol, the temperature is decreased to very low extent. It means the temperature should get into normal, but the temperature got very low. That is also adverse drug reaction. That is also not suitable for the body. So there should be 98 degrees and it should be constant. So if it is higher than that, we'll take paracetamol. But after taking paracetamol, it is very lower to 90 degrees. Is that a good condition for the body? Very less temperature? No, right? So this pharmacovigilance also deals with the benefit and risk ratio of the populations. Okay, so what are the benefits you are getting with the drug? What are the adverse drug reactions with the getting the drug? This should be always justified. So for example, I said, if you are taking a fever drug, but you are getting a death, is it making sense? Is it worthable? You are taking a drug for fever, but you got a death with this drug. Is it justifiable, the benefit risk ratio, guys?
Oh, sir.
No, right? The intention of the drug, what you are taking is for fever, but the drug caused death. So it is not at all a good sign. Definitely, the FDA will ban such drugs. How the FDA will ban the drugs? It is not a like a direct step. So meanwhile, there is a process flow is involved. So that is so-called pharmacovigilance. This PV people will work in collection of areas, and this will collect and submit to PV companies. Their PV employees work on database. They will process the patient cases according to the format. That report will be sent to FDA. Post that reviewing everything, FDA will approve or ban the drug or giving warnings to the sponsor company, and this publish the information in the journals. By that, people will get awareness. This is a huge process involved in pharmacovigilance. So such important benefit risk ratio will also be assessed by our PV people, pharmacovigilance department. Next. So as I said, the history of pharmacovigilance. So it is, people were thinking this is very emerging recent days, but this is have very great background in the initial days. So people, you heard about thalidomide drug. I think
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
pharmacovigilance.
sir.
Yes, sir.
What is the use of thalidomide?
It cures nausea and vomiting sensations.
Yes, yes. Initially, what happens is in the 1960s, in the 19th century, there were a drug called thalidomide. Thalidomide is used for sickness, and usually for the first trimester, the pregnant woman will have some nausea, weakness, and vomitings, and all that. These are all the common symptoms among most pregnant women. So, for that reason, what happened is they took thalidomide in the first trimester. Okay, they took thalidomide to cure the symptoms called nausea, vomiting kind of symptoms. But after taking that thalidomide, after the delivery of the babies were born with deformities, like leg deformities, fetal deformities. Like some people were died, some fetus were died while inside in the womb itself. Some people got leg deformities, some people got some children got face deformities. So the babies who were born after taking the thalidomide during pregnancy or with all fetal abnormalities. Literally 4,000 people, 4,000 children got affected with this thalidomide disaster. So this is very, very great, created a great impact in the health science, that is safety of the drug. So that is was the initial stage where people are mainly focusing on the safety of the drug. So they are very sure thalidomide, if you are taking thalidomide, it will cure or it will reduce or it will prevent the that nausea and vomiting, but the result is very, very bad. So people, children were born with all deformities. It is not a good sign of the drug. So this disaster made very great impact in our health science, and this made alert and this made wake up so many regulatory authorities. By that, this PV came into existence on very stronger basis. We'll see some incidences what happened before this PV existence or before this PV actively working. So there are some incidences. So after the thalidomide episode in 1960, efforts began in the direction of the drug safety, which led to the formation of pharmacovigilance. I said no, this is very, very big disaster in our health science, that is a drug process. So after that only the people were putting efforts. The efforts made more and more proactive manner, and that led to the separate department so called pharmacovigilance, where we'll be continuously keep watching or awake or to alert on the drug process. So what happens, what is happening with the drug after taking the drug by the patient. So WHO, World Health Organization, established its program for international drug monitoring in response to the thalidomide disaster detected in 1961. So WHO is the governing body for all this kind of safety assessments and all the drug processes and giving terminologies, giving guidelines and all that. So this WHO established its program for internationally drug monitoring, not on a national basis or not on a state basis. It developed on international basis a drug monitoring program after detecting thalidomide disaster in the year of 1961. Together with the WHO Collaborating Center for International Drug Monitoring, UPSALA, WHO promotes PV at the country level. So the highest, the central level, I mean international wide, there is a center so-called UPSALA Monitoring Center, which is international drug monitoring program that will governs and that will take over all the reports from all the countries and all the regions. And this is the main regulatory body to give warnings or signals and all that. This is a main central level body, that is Opusala Monitoring Center. So along with this Opusala Monitoring Center, the WHO was collaborated, and both together were promoting the PV activities at all countries level. So on active basis, they were collecting ADR information. So at the end of 2010, there are 134 countries were part of the WHO PV program. Initially, there are very few countries, US and UK, such a financially developed and very well aware in education and all that. Such countries were only there in the initial days. But at the end of 2010, literally 134 countries were a part of this WHO PV program. So the purpose of all these countries collaborating together into this drug monitoring program is to detect unknown and poorly understood adverse effects. Initially, what happens before the drug release into the market? What happens? So after everything happens, formulation, pre-formulation, and manufacturing, quality control, quality assurance. So after all evaluation parameters, will be the drug released directly into the market, or something will happen in meanwhile? Do you got my question? I have a question for you. Like after formulation, R&D, and quality control, quality assurance, will the drug directly released into the market, or is any process will? Yes.
Process is the
What is that
Regulatory
process?
to
clinical
regulatory
researchers,
department, they will send the information
So what is that information they will
clinical
send?
trials.
Yes, that
about
is
the
a
clinical trials play.
yes, yes. That is the answer I'm expecting. So there is a process should be actively involved after all evaluation purpose parameters. Should be performed clinical trials, right? So during clinical trials, we may expect some areas. Okay, I said no coaxin. How the people are telling? If you are taking coaxin, you may get fever. How they are telling? How they know before? Because during clinical trial, it is
Clinical
proved.
trials.
Okay, during clinical trials, it is proved that if you are taking coaxin, then you may have chance to get fever and other nausea kind of thing. For that, immediately you have to take a remedy, so called for paracetamol. So that is avoidable area that we can eradicate by taking some other extra drug, some other therapy. Okay, that is very risk versus benefit ratio is very less because coaxin is a death causing, COVID is death virus. Okay, but after taking coaxin, you are developing antibodies and you are protecting yourself. Meanwhile, you are just getting a fever. Just that is rise in temperature, which is lasting only for 2 days. That is fine. So during clinical trial itself, we'll expect some areas, some adverse drug reactions. So that is fine. But after do you know what is the maximum count in clinical trial up to phase 3? Guess, wild guess. Any guesses?
Can you repeat again answer?
Yeah,
Question?
what is the maximum number of people will be involved in clinical trial?
Approx 1,000. Phase
Yeah,
3, 10,000.
yes, good. So it might be the maximum count in a clinical trial should be 10,000 people.
10,000
But
people.
yeah, do you believe after release of the drug into the market, will it be went only for the 10,000 people? No, because after completion of clinical trials, after submitting the clinical trial information to the regulatory authority, after getting patents for the drug will be released into the market. Once the drug released into the market, it will be circulated worldwide, right? So when the drug is in clinical trial, there are only 10,000 people exposed to the drug, but once the drug released into the market, it is nearly reaching millions of people. So based on body condition, based on gender, based on whether maybe pediatric or geriatric, based on geography, based on race, based on hereditary, there are so many factors the drug will act differently. Agree? Agree with this point? Because
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
after release
agree
of the
this
drug
point.
market, after the release of the drug into the market, it will be exposed into various populations, pediatrics, geriatrics, children, adolescents, different races. It may be to Asia, it may be to Australia, and different races like ethnicity, Han or white. So different kinds of factors will come into picture. So we cannot expect the same areas which were seeing in clinical trial. We may have chance to get some other new adverse drug reactions. So if this PV is not working in active manner, there is no other regulatory authority or there is no other process or no other job role will take care of safety of the drug. Like thalidomide disaster will get some other disaster, some other people will get affected, and it will go on like that. So for that reason, there will be unexpected areas too after the release of the drug into the market. Those are called unknown and poorly understood adverse effects that will be detected by pharmacovigilance, because pharmacovigilance is actively monitoring the patients, right? After the release of the drug into the market, whether in patient, whether in hospital, or it may check the patient records. Then it will find after taking the drug the patient got this ADR. So in that manner, it will detect unknown, that means which were not assessed during clinical trial. That kind of ADRs also will be detected by pharmacovigilance. Next, history of drug safety. So actually what happens is there are very very bad instances happened during this 19th and 18th century, where the when the period PV was not at all active. Pharmacovigilance, that means safety monitoring, is not at all there at the time. Do you know chloroform? What is the use of chloroform? Chloroform, I think we people all know chloroform.
Yeah, it
It's
likes
what
as
is the use of
anesthesia.
chloroform?
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia.
Yes, it is a general anesthesia. It is
Hmm.
a just the purpose is anesthetic, right?
Yeah.
But in 1848, a 15-year-old Hannah Greener died in course of routine anesthesia with chloroform. Problem is ingrown nail of toe, fibrillation of ventricles. The person was injected chloroform just to give anesthesia, just to give the effect of anesthesia. But what happened? When the 15-year-old boy got this chloroform, the boy got a very dangerous condition, ingrown nail of toe, and that made fibrillation of ventricles. So the person got died. So the drug is very very routine drug, chloroform, but the ADR what we cost? Death. So if you are not at all communicating this information to further people, some other people may also die with this information, because at the time there is no PV, no pharmacovigilance. But now, if today chloroform is causing a death, definitely tomorrow it will be published in papers. Definitely it will be very immediate basis, very urgent basis. Because for serious adverse drug reactions, we have only 7 calendar days, 7 days timelines. Within 7 days it will be submitted to FDA. Within fraction of hours FDA will show its action to approve or ban the drug. By that, other people will be taking chloroform, will take some precautions, and they will check all body conditions whether it suits or not, or if really required the FDA will ban the drug. So such stringent rules are there with the PV. Such important department is called PV. So it is avoiding deaths, because these days people are relying on drugs, even from paracetamol, from small headache to surgery. So everybody is relying on drugs, right? So if you are really having very serious adverse drug reactions like death or life threatening with small medications, this is very very problem. So that's why PV is having very huge impact in society today. So one more scenario we can see. In 1893, Lancet initiated foundation of a commission and starting collection of notifications about side effects. After this incidents happened in 1893, one person, the initial, there were efforts. This is not an global wise, or this is not an actively manner. This is in a personal manner. He personally have interest to report the areas to save others' lives. So Lancet was initiated a foundation of a commission for starting collection of notifications about side effects. So in the year of 1893, Lancet just found a commission, just started a foundation. With this, for this foundation, he used to get notifications. He used to collect all adverse drug reaction information. What happened in which country? What happened with this drug? In other country? What happened with this drug? Whether the drug is really causing good effects or really causing adverse drug reactions. So this was the initial efforts done by people in 1893. In 1906, U.S. Federal Food and Drugs Act required that the pharmaceutical should be pure and free of any contamination. Nothing about the efficacy. So in 1906, after this Lancet Foundation, in 1906, the U.S. Federal Food and Drug Act. This is the act, standard act. This is very strictly implementing whatever the drug you are releasing into the market. That should definitely have lack of efficacy, but it should not have any adulterants. Okay, adulterants. That means it should be pure. It should not have any foreign particle, and it should not have any harm causing particles to the patients. So that is the only thing this US Federal Food and Drug Act was stated. So after that it implemented strictly. So in 1936 again USA's 107 lethal cases after sulfonylamides. Diethylene glycol was used to solubilize. Do you know sulfonylamides? Antibiotics. Do you know sulfonylamides, right? It is a
Okay.
class of drugs. So
Yes, sir.
in sulfonylamide, there is a solvent we'll use. Definitely we'll use a solvents now. While manufacturing drugs, do we use solvents? We'll use solvents, excipients, colorants, flavorants, different products we'll
Yes,
use.
yes.
So while manufacturing sulfonates, we used diethylene glycol, which is a solubilizing agent. With this sulfonylamide, with this diethylene glycol, which is used as a solubilizing agent, we have 107 lethal cases. Lethal cases are nothing but death cases. See how bad it is. So it is not even a big complex molecule. It is not big a new chemical moiety. It is very known chemical moiety and very known solubilizing agent, very known products. But we had 107 lethal cases after the sulfonylamides uses. So these kind of scenarios were happened before this PV. So in 1938, Food, Drug and Cosmetics Act 1938, firms had to prove to the FDA that any new drug was safe before it could be marketed. The birth of the new drug application. Do you know NDA? What is NDA? When we send NDA?
New drug application.
When will send NDA?
After the phase 3 clinical trials.
Yes. After phase 3 clinical trial, we'll submit all the information about the drug regarding its product efficacy, pre-formulation studies. Along with all that, we need to submit the safety information too. Somebody please mute the mic. Yes. So after this 1936, 107 lethal cases happened. No, after this, immediately within 2 years, this Food, Drug and Cosmetics Act, Drugs and Cosmetics Act, I think everybody will know in forensic pharmacy. 1940 Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Everybody, every pharma student will might be aware of that. So this is Food, Drug and Cosmetics Act. So this is made and again implementation of one more rule. Whatever the drug you if you are releasing into the market, before release of the drug into the market, you will submit all the information, all the clinical trial information to the FDA. That is a regulatory authority, right? Before release of the drug into the market, we have to submit the information to FDA. FDA will review the information and will give approval to give the patents to release the drug into the market. So when you are submitting clinical trial, when you are submitting product information about efficacy, you should prove the drug also very safer for all population. The drug is not at all causing death and other serious adverse drug reactions. This implementation, this condition was made by Food and Drug Cosmetics Act. In 1906, what they said, it didn't say about safety. It was telling only about the drug should be pure without any adulterants, without any contamination. But in 1938, what it is telling, it is clearly telling when you are proving the drug, when you are submitting the drug information, you have to prove the drug should be safer for the patients. Then only will approve the drug. That is a strict implementation we got after 107 death cases with simple sulfonamide antibiotics with a polymer so-called diethylene glycol. Next, in 1952, the name of council, the 1949 council was changed to the Council for International Organization of Medical Sciences, SIAMS. In coming classes, you might hear this name so many times. Just remember this. SIAMS. We have SIAMS forms too. Those are universally accepted ADR collection forms. So SIAMS, we have some council for ADR collection, PV working, and all that, which was in 1952 changed into SIAMS, that is Council for International Organization of Medical Sciences. This year we have changed the name of the council. Next, history of drug safety too. So we can see some other incidences happened with this before this PV. So I said no, thalidomide disaster in 1961. So there are more than 4,000 cases was happened. So after taking thalidomide in the first trimester, after delivering the babies all were fetal abnormalities and pocomelia in relation with thalidomide use. Pocomelia is nothing but limb deformities and hand deformities and all that. So all these conditions will be together called pocomelia. So there is 20% increase in the fetal abnormalities and all these conditions pocomelia happened. This is all explaining about thalidomide disaster. After thalidomide disaster, we have Kefauver Harris amendment to the law in 1962. In 1962, this made very, very, very great impact in the health science again. So after thalidomide disaster only, even there are so many statements passed, so many acts came into picture, so many death scenarios happened, so many people died with chloroform, but this didn't make that much impact. The impact created by thalidomide, the impact created by thalidomide was very huge. That was basic of developing pharmacovigilance. So if really somebody asking an interview, what is the main disaster happened and what is the main reason to develop this PV to this extent, you just have to tell thalidomide disaster, where the pregnant woman took thalidomide to avoid this nausea and all that. But the result is very huge disaster in which 4,000 children were born with fetal abnormalities and focomelia. After this, there are very stringent rules implemented, so-called USA Kefauver Harris Amendment. In 1962, we have an amendment, we have very strict passing. That name is USA Kefauver Harris Amendment. So this is requirement to prove safety and efficacy before issuing MA. MA is nothing but marketing authorization. After the release of the drug into the market, the sponsor company will get MAH. So the person will be called MAH, marketing authorization holder. So he is the person who can release the drug into the market, who can have all benefits with this drug release. So whenever the drug released into the market, there is a must and should, not like a liberal, no considerations were given. You should prove the safety and you take patents. It is very stringent rule passed after Kefauver Harris amendment to the law. Next, in 1963, some more reaffirmations were formed. That is Resolution WHA 16.36. You just no need to remember all the years and words. You just need to know the story, what has happened behind before this pharmacovigilance. What is the background happened to this PV? Yes. So this 1963 resolution WHA 16.36 reaffirmed the need for early action in regard to adverse drug reactions. I said no. After COVID-19 infection, we are taking Covaxin. So after taking Covaxin, the people, the healthcare providers who are giving the Covaxin, they are telling you may get fever. Immediately, what they are giving us? Dolo 650. So if really anything is happening with this drug, you should be given immediate precautions. So during clinical trial only we'll come to know what kind of areas we may expect with the drug. So after the release of the drug into the market, if the person is really getting adverse drug reaction, immediately they should get treatment. So that treatment should be made available in all pharmacies, or it should be given along with the drug when it is prescribed. That is the 1963 resolution was talking about. So whenever you are taking a drug, if you are getting a ADR with the drug, then a immediate remedy should be available with that adverse drug reaction. Next, in 1964, in line was in simultaneous manner after this thalidomide disaster, immediate basis, so many amendments, so many stringent rules were passed. Like that, in 1964, again UK started Elocott system. Elocots are those nothing but this UK health Ministry of Health. What this did is, so this made available of Elocots. So Elocott is nothing but ADR collection form. Whenever the physician is prescribing the drug, the people will be giving Elocott. So all the information. So after taking the drug, if the patient is experiencing any adverse drug reaction or side effects with the drug, he can fill in that Elocott and he can submit to the FDA, or he can submit to the general practitioner, the physician, or nearby PV center. Okay. There is a stringent rule that every hospital should have a PV center, but in India it is not implemented such a manner. But in India also, for regional manner. So if you are having a general grade hospital, general government hospital, or they will be choosing like because it's a chain process. If the patient is getting ADR, he cannot directly go to the FDA and submit it. He can submit nearby PV center, which is located in a hospital or medical college like that. So that will further goes on to the regulatory reporting for FDA. The process will discuss entirely in coming sessions. Next, in 1965, again, European Union issued EC Directive 6566. So again, European Union, UK is one of the country, Europe Union, which is a union for all European countries, which has issued one more directive, in which is stating that the directive was a reaction to the thalidomide tragedy in the early 1960s and aimed to establish and maintain a high level of protection for public health in Europe. So after this thalidomide disaster happened, all the countries were aware and they are making their people very safer and protective manner. So in that reason, for that reason, the individual countries develop individual regulations, individual acts, individual organizations, individual amendments. All this were happened. As like that, in 1965, European Union also made a directive in regards to thalidomide tragedy to protect the public health in Europe. That means they are taking active measures while they are giving drug. They are giving remedy too. While giving drug, they are giving some yellow cards. By that, on immediate basis, the drug ADR information will be sent to regulatory authority. Next, in 1968, start of WHO program for international drug monitoring. I said no. The WHO was collaborated with the Uppsala Monitoring Center, and it is together maintaining the PV activities. That is, WHO was started the program for international drug monitoring in 1968. So that is the year which WHO started implementing its drug monitoring methods. In 1960, ICH elaboration of intra-regional requirements for safety starts, ICH safety guidelines. So elaboration of intra-regional. So within the regional levels, not in between, within the regional levels. If the country there at the time before this 1990, worldwide there will be one center. But after technologies emerging, years were passing, individual country level, there are regulatory bodies which were taking the action regarding these areas, and they are collecting the adverse drug reaction on very actively manner and submitting to FDA. By that, on immediate basis, an action will be released. So what is ICH? I think everybody will know the definition of ICH. What is ICH?
International Conference
International
of
Conference of
Harmonization.
Harmonization.
Yes. So in kind of pharmacy, in pharma, what is the exact definition? It is International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use. Okay, so there should be, and in coming classes we have so many ICH guidelines and all that. So be aware of this term, so-called ICH. This is also very important. So ICH safety guidelines. They may have a question regarding that. We'll see in depth. So need of pharmacovigilance. So I said something to something till now. Do you people think this PV is very important or not required?
It's
Do you
required.
people? Yes, this is required, no? Because we have a simple chloroform death, simple sulfanilamide deaths, and simple thalidomide, which is nausea drug. With this also we have 4,000 abnormalities. If we are not having this pharmacovigilance, which is monitoring the drug areas, there is again more disasters, more areas, and again the safety system will be collapsed. People then only think about efficacy, and sponsor companies on liberty manner they will give free patents. They will release the drugs on their wish, and they will just make finance on that. That's it. That is the only thing will happen. There is no other process or no other domain will be taking care of safety. But if you really want to safeguard the public health, to protect the people from the adverse drug reactions from the chemical moieties, then we should be existing with the safety concern regulatory system or safety concern proactive monitoring system, that is called pharmacovigilance. So there is a need to monitor the effects of drugs during the clinical trials and after its launch in the market, because adverse events can happen during the clinical trials and even after its launch in the market. This is all I said. Because investigation is nothing but clinical trials. During clinical trials, for the first time, you are giving the drug into the subjects. This is very chemical moiety. There is again pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So what the drug does to the body, what body reacts to the drug, right? So if you are really taking, even if you are having some pollen grain, the body reacts in a different manner, because the entry of foreign particle may produce antibodies and it may create hypersensitivity reaction, or there is a chances even own organs sometimes the body immune system will just think it is a foreign particle and it will start affecting the same organ. That is autoimmune disorders, right? So if you are really taking for conditions and other diseases, we are taking some extra artificial substances other than internal substances. So definitely the body will react in a different manner. It will produce some other effects other than along with that normal treatment effects. It may produce adverse drug reactions. So at that time we should have pharmacovigilance on very active basis in the clinical trial. Why we should have marketing phase? Because already for the first time investigation phase this pharmacovigilance is there. Drug was inhaled, drug was administered, patient got ADR, subjects got ADR, and that was submitted. That is all fine. So the first experience we have seen, no, why again marketing phase, this pharmacovigilance should exist? Yes, because investigation phase is that it is limited to the subjects, only 10,000. Even if you take phase 3, only 10,000 people will be subjected. But once the drug released into the market, there are numerous, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of geography, regardless of hereditary, so many millions of people were taking the drug. So there is a chance of getting new areas which were not discovered during the investigation phase. So that's the reason the pharmacovigilance have very huge impact after the release of the drug into the market. So this pharmacovigilance very important need during the trial after the release of the drug into the market. So that is what this slide. Why pharmacovigilance in clinical trials? After completing preclinical studies in animals, first time trial drug will be administered to the human. At this time, the drug will act in different way to the human body. Chances of adverse event will also persist. That is what I was discussing. Next, pharmacovigilance in post-marketing. Why? At the time of approval, clinical trial data is available on limited number of patients because only limited number of subjects will be involved in trial. So they are treated for relatively short periods, maybe 10 years or like that. But once the drug released into the market, it may be existing until its lifetime. So once a product is marketed, large number of patients may be exposed, including patients with comorbid illness, patients using concomitant medications, patients with chronic exposure. I said no, there is adverse drug reaction chance, maybe due to directly to the drug or maybe due to other factors also. Maybe due to the drug, other factors also causing. Comorbid illness is nothing but, for example, take I'm a diabetic patient. Okay, if I'm a diabetic patient, daily I have to take some rosaglitazone or glibenclamide or glimepiride, whatever anti-diabetic medication I have to take. But after, even though I am a diabetic patient, one fine day I got fever. Okay, one fine day I got fever. What I have to take now? I have to take antipyretic tablet, that is paracetamol tablet or injection. So when I'm taking paracetamol, what it should act? It should go and act on my fever. But what this drug is doing? This drug is doing going and acting on diabetes. So it is not at all the purpose, but diabetes also there inside my body. But it is reacting with diabetes and producing some other areas like nausea. So at the time also we may have chance to the cause of ADR. At this time, the drug is not at all reason for the ADR. The existence of comorbid illness is a reason for ADR. Next, patients using concomitant medications. As I said, I am having a diabetics. I'm using this glibenclamide and glimepiride, but this glimepiride may react with this paracetamol, and this drug-drug interaction will happen. This caused ADR. This time also directly not causing ADR. This is reacting with conmed and causing ADRs. Next, patient with chronic exposure. Some people may work in dust industry or very severe kind of environment and all that. At the time, the drug will go and react with the environmental conditions and may cause ADRs. At this time, drug may not be related to directly to ADR causing, may be related to other factors. So we are a person to assess the safety of the patient, and we will be finalizing what is the cause of ADR, and we will be giving report to the FDA. So this is all the steps involved in phase of clinical trials. Sorry, in the process of PV, in the phase of clinical trial as well as in post marketing. So this is all the process actually involved, and rest all slides we can see in tomorrow session. Is it clear or any doubt? If you have any queries at any cost, you can ask me. Clear? Can I get response? Tomorrow we can
Clear.
see some. Yes. Can I ask some questions?
Yeah.
So what is the definition of pharmacovigilance?
Pharmacovigilance is the collection, detection, and researching and information. Assessing and evaluating the information from healthcare providers, patients on the adverse effects of medication, biological products, herbalism, and traditional medicines.
Very good. This is a standard definition. So this all the process will do in uh, PV. Okay. So is this pharmacovigilance is limited only to clinical trials?
No.
So is it is existing in both PMS as well as
Mm.
clinical trials, right?
Clinical.
Next, mm, what is adverse drug reaction?
Unfavorable and unintended sign or symptoms or disease temporarily associated with the use of medication products.
Yes, it may be a traditional medicine, it may be
It
herbal or
may be
biological.
herbal, biological products.
Yes, good. Yes, any doubts from anybody? Any doubts?
No, sir.
If you're really having any doubts, you can ask me and you can clarify here. Okay. So, what was the biggest impact in the health science which made roots for the PV? Biggest?
Thalidomide.
Thalidomide
reaction.
Yes,
Disaster.
thalidomide. Yes. What was the outcome of thalidomide disaster?
Baby
Deformation of
abnormalities.
abnormalities.
Nearly 4,000 people were
4,000 were death.
yes deformities. Yes, good. So, can you mention some other incidences too? Like one more. We have one more, two more incidences too.
One more chloroform
Sulfonamide.
incident.
Yes.
Sulfonamides.
Thalidomide. Good. These are all
Lethal
incidences.
cases.
Yes. These are all incidences which made roots for the developing of PV in a very greater extent. And it made so many amendments and stringent rules which safeguard the public health. Okay. And thank you so much for all the answers and it's really amazing session. And if you're really having doubt and if you're very insecure, and you can just contact me personally and we can talk there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If
Yes,
nothing
sir.
is there, we are good to close the session. Sonuji, you have anything to talk?